Welcome back to the Ohio Business Week Speaker Series. This episode is featuring Elizabeth Blunt McCormick, President of Uniglobe Travel Designers in Columbus. Elizabeth will be telling her story of starting out in the fashion industry and working for U2 frontman Bono, and ultimately taking over the family travel business. Uniglobe Travel Designers is a multi-million-dollar company with clients across the United States. Elizabeth is well respected in the industry and is very active in the community. Elizabeth has volunteered at Ohio Business Week Camp as a speaker and a judge and has become a great friend of the organization. Following this 17-minute segment, Elizabeth will be available to answer all your questions, so be sure to type them in the comments. And now let's hear from Elizabeth Blunt McCormick.
So my name is Elizabeth Blount McCormick. I own a travel business, and in these times it's kind of crazy with COVID-19. But I just wanted to share that I participated in Ohio Business Week last year, and it was just an inspiring time for me, and just great to understand what young people are thinking about regarding entrepreneurship. So I want to share a little bit about my story, and then I look forward to continuing the conversation. So I started my career in retail, and I worked for the Gap in San Francisco, and then I moved to Miami, Florida, and I lived there for about 3 years and continued my career there. And actually, just one thing I want to mention that's so important is relationships. And the woman who hired me for my job in Miami, Florida, was someone I stayed in touch with and decided that if I wanted to have a significant career in retail, that I needed to be either in New York or Los Angeles. And so I ended up reaching out to Sarah, that's who hired me for my Miami job, and she hired me to work for Bono, the head singer of U2. So I ended up moving to New Jersey and commuting to New York City every day and running his clothing line. So I was the production manager. But I think this is just something to mention to you, is that first impressions are everything, and you never know how relationships can kind of trickle and affect your life in so many different ways. You know, and because I worked really hard when I worked for Sarah in Miami, my boss at the time, he was a male chauvinist, and I didn't let it get to me, and I just kept like my eye on the prize and kept focusing on what I wanted to do. And with that, then that kind of led Sarah to say, when I reached out to her, it was just a natural progression, right? It was natural. She didn't have a problem even giving me an opportunity, because she saw me in kind of a tricky situation and how I overcame that. And so I traveled the world when I was working for Bono, and I went to Peru and Tunisia and Portugal and actually New Delhi. So I went to India about 4 or 5 times. And then just on the sidebar, I'll get to travel now. I love to travel, but my mom was thinking about selling our business. So we're actually a family-owned business. It's my mom, sister, and I that own it together. And we had a little conference call. My mom said, I'm going to sell this company. And we said, don't do it. We want to try our hands at entrepreneurship. And so my sister and I ended up moving to Columbus. And you know, the one thing that I did when I first got back here is that I was looking around at all these business owners that I respected and admired, and wanted to understand like what it is, how did they achieve success, and what were they doing? And I thought maybe I can kind of follow their behavior and their pattern. So I decided to get involved in a number of organizations like NABO, the National Association of Women Business Owners. Became involved in WELD, which was great, which is the Women for Economic Leadership Development. And then additionally, I would spend a lot of time talking to people and just understanding their story, their journey. And that information, it just helped me kind of create my path. And then from there, just became really involved in the community here in Columbus. And you know, now I'm on some different boards, the Columbus Chamber of Commerce board, but at first I started out being a member of the Small Business Council. And then from being a part of that, that led to me being appointed to the board later. So my point is, there are different steps, but that can get you to a path. And so now I'm on, you know, the board for the Columbus Chamber of Commerce, and the work that we're doing is incredible. We actually, because of the current state of the world, we started a diversity, equity, inclusion committee, and I'm chairing that. My point is that there are different steps that you take, but you can always get, there's a goal there, and there was a goal in sight, and it happened. You know, with my business, you know, one thing that I always say is that a no leads to a better yes. And there have been times that I've been told no, but for that reason, it's because something better was in store for me. And so despite the fact that COVID-19 has happened and I own a travel business and we book corporate travelers and leisure travelers, and of course everyone knows for the last, 8 months now, travel's kind of frozen. But even in that environment, we've still shown our value to our clients, right? You have to pivot. And so you have to understand, like, okay, maybe that's happening right now, but what's something that we can do? So we've talked to a number of our travel partners, as far as the airlines are concerned, hotels, car rental companies, and understanding what does post-COVID travel look like. And with that information, we've shared that with our travelers. We've had a number of Zoom sessions and lunch and learns, because we want people to know that we are we're your expert, we're your advocate, but we know what's going on. And with that, despite the fact that COVID is happening, and I want to mention a number of travel companies have shut their doors because they just couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They couldn't see the opportunity there. And you have to, being an entrepreneur is about that. You reinvent yourself. So one of the first things we also did as well is we wanted people to continue to dream. And so we started partnering with a number of our suppliers for vacations, and we highlighted destinations all over the world. We highlighted Italy. We looked at actually RV trips. We looked at domestic destinations as well, and partnered with these different suppliers, and we had Zoom happy hours and lunch and learns, again, because we want people to continue to dream. So I didn't use this time as a doom and gloom time. I looked at it as a time for opportunity. And so many of my team members, they've rallied around each other, have come up with really great ideas. But as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to ebb and flow, I always say, and you have to be able to adjust, and we've been able to do that. It's definitely, there are those times when you feel frustrated and just maybe a little defeated, but you have to continue, you have to keep going. And what's been nice too is the number of entrepreneurs that I have close relationships with. I've been able to talk to them, bounce things off of them, just to determine, like, is there another way I could look at this, right? Is there another way that is there something I'm not thinking about? Am I banging my head against the wall? Like, how can I get better, and how can I improve? And that has just been what's helpful. It's having just a network. People say your network is your net worth, and having so many people that you can call on. And sometimes just a sentence or a little nugget of advice can just change how you feel during the day or during that particular day, but also can lead you into another path. I think that because at one point during the summer, U.S. passport holders were banned from like 33 countries. And so because of that, a lot of people were itching to get away, but they were looking at like domestically. And the U.S. has so many beautiful places. And so, with that, we've shown people like, hey, the U.S. is a beautiful place, and there's so many things you can discover right now. And so we had to change our mindset as well, because when you think about going on vacation, you're thinking about, it could be a luxurious beach vacation. It could be a river cruise where there are only 200 passengers. People, they don't think about it as a domestic side and how beautiful the United States is. And with that, we've helped so many people rent vacation homes here in the U.S. We've had a lot of people that have wanted to travel to places where socially distancing is just automatically happening. So we've had people that have traveled to the West Coast, right, to Colorado, just because they know that, hey, I'm going to a place where socially distancing is already happening. I don't have to worry about that, but I can change my environment. Another thing I want to mention is that there are a number of resorts that have promotions that are happening, like in the Caribbean, where they're giving discounted rates to work from an island for like a week or so. It's pretty cool. And they're giving travelers upgrades because they know, again, since all of us many of us are working from home. I have not been. I like to have my schedule, so I keep coming into the office, in my routine. But for people that have been at home for 8 months, it's such a great alternative to say, well, I can use the Wi-Fi, I can FaceTime, I can jump on a Zoom call from an island and get the balance. So I think that the thing that has happened as well is people are seeing that there's more to life than just working. There's a way to balance, and you can have it all, which I am happy to see that. I think it's response time. I think that people don't understand how important it is to respond. If you reach out to someone, or someone reaches out to you, just to get back to them. It's a simple thing, like an email. You can shoot an email off in like a minute or so, right? But it's just like understanding that it's critical. A lot of people don't do that. Like the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So the more engaged you are, and the more responsive you are, that's a quality I always look for, because that person will understand like what it takes to get things done, right? Additionally, relationships, like your first impressions are everything. And so I always want to make sure that I put my best foot forward, regardless of what situation I'm in, and I have to be my authentic self. Like, this is who I am, and I'm confident in that, but also just being confident in your own skin is what will help you as well. And I went to Bexley schools from 1st through 8th grade, and then I went to Wellington for high school, which is a private school here in Columbus. And that's when I really evolved, I think. I mean, Wellington is all about just letting people be their individual selves, show up how you are. Everyone isn't an athlete, everyone isn't great at art or dance, but it's just, I was accepted for who I was, right? And I was able to just kind of come into my own skin. I played, sports in high school, but I was also involved in leadership. So I participated in the student government. We had a organization called the Judicial Review Board, where we looked at our fellow classmates, and if they were doing something that was against the code of conduct, then I was a part of those conversations when we expelled some people. And it was a hard situation to be in, but also taught me a lot about what being a leader is about. So I participated in a number of different organizations and stepped up. I mean, it's just like, what's the worst thing you can hear is no, but you should try. My mom always says nothing beats a failure but a try, and I believe that. So I just put myself out there, and I was comfortable enough, didn't win everything, wasn't always on top, but at least that shaped me for who I am, to understand that you're not always going to win, but there are other ways and other things you can, right? Some things maybe are just not intended for you because something's better. I joined my mom in this business in 2006. And at the time, a number of the people that worked for her had watched me grow. So, I was in high school when my mom first bought the business. And so to come back as a 26-year-old young woman, it was kind of a difficult adjustment, because these people would watch me grow up, and seeing me come in as like a leader in the organization and making changes and implementing more structure was a little difficult. But my sister and I, we had to work on the culture, and we knew that we needed to change that. And so doing things the way they were always done is just, you're never going to be successful. And unfortunately, and fortunately actually, some of the people that couldn't just get on or get with the program, that we had to make adjustments, we had to make changes, they're not in the organization anymore, right? They kind of just, we came to an agreement. Some of those people, we either departed ways, or maybe they found another opportunity, but it was just that the culture was something that we had to change. Additionally, marketing. My mother had never marketed before. She didn't see the reason. She grew by word of mouth, and we had to invest in obviously in a website and social media, just getting our name out there on number of different platforms. And it was an adjustment for her, but she sees the power in that. And just, we had to evolve to that. We had to invest in technology. We had invested in a lot of technology, and I knew in order for us to grow, and now currently we have clients in 30 states, but at that time we were only in a couple. But it was just like, we had to invest in technology. We had to spend money to make money, and we have the top of the line technology. And so now we're actually very, very competitive with a number of bigger TMCs, or travel management companies, that are out there. And it's because we spent the time, and we invested, and we spent the money so that we could offer the whole package, the travel package. But we had to invest in technology, we had to change our culture, we had to invest in marketing. Like, those are the things that my mom hadn't really thought of. And then we actually have a partnership with a talent company that's based in Los Angeles, and they specialize in travel talent. So having that partnership is helpful, because as we continue to grow, it's nice to go to somebody who's already vetted people and vetted employees. We actually have a process in place, where before it's almost like we were like casting a net and trying to see what we could get, where we have to hire intentionally. We have to make sure that it makes sense for our organization. It has to be people that have certain skills, honestly, and personality-wise as well. So with that, it was a change, it was an adjustment, but it's like, we have to take the business seriously, and we have to make sure we're hiring serious candidates as well. Like, as a travel management company owner, we are kind of the middleman. So something happens with the airlines, the clients come to us. They're not mad at Delta Airlines. But what our job is to understand, who do we go to if there's a problem with Delta? Who do we go to at Hilton? How can we make this situation better? How can we make the clients happy? You really have to have tunnel vision doesn't work in the travel business, because we have to be inventive, we have to be creative, we have to focus on relationships, we have to really, you have to have drive and ambition, because and honestly, now so many things are coming up with different rules and regulations regarding travel, but you have to have people that really can see their way through the forest. Like you have to be able to see possibilities. You have to be able to think on your feet. And these same skills are necessary to be an entrepreneur. Like you have to be ambitious, you have to be driven, and with that, those are some of the qualities I like to understand. Tell us about a time where you were in a kind of a conflict, or you experienced a conflict regarding travel. How did you solve that? What did you do? Who were the most important people in this situation, right? So those are the kind of things that we look for when we're looking for talent. Are you good at conflict resolution? Are you a self-starter? It's those kind of things where I need people to come in here and can handle something, and I don't have to micromanage it. My mom had kind of run this as a mom and pop, and so from my experience being at the Gap, so the mega corporation, and then working for Bono's company, Eden was smaller, but still, we just need to put structure in place. And so there was a lot of just people were shocked. People don't like change, and we stayed true to our guns and knew, hey, we've got to implement these processes. We need to have reviews. We need to talk to consultants quarterly. We need to ask for surveys. We need to really have a great pulse on how our company was performing and how we were perceived in the market. And people were against that. But what's interesting is that and change is always hard, and making adjustments is always difficult. But again, the people that were okay and embraced change were able to stay, right? And those that were not, then it wasn't meant to be, because the business was in a different place. And so it's understanding, like, your business will be in different stages, and sometimes people just cannot continue on with you, and that gives you an opportunity to bring other talent and other ideas and other people in. And that's what we were okay with, because I'll tell you, at first we were in this position where we thought, oh my gosh, if this person ever left, what would we do? And we decided to never be in that situation again, where, hey, multiple people can do it, and we're not just at the mercy of someone if they get upset and they don't want to kind of really align with our goals, with the way we function, with the new processes and procedures. And so we vowed not to be in that position anymore. So, we're in 30 states right now. I want to be in all 50. Would definitely at some point like to have an office overseas, maybe in London. That's one of my favorite places. We'll probably have to expand and have a West Coast office as well, just because right now we're in the Midwest and the South, maybe the East Coast. We are looking at so many different opportunities, and things sometimes just kind of fall into our laps, right? People will reach out and know that we're here, and not even just being here in Columbus, but in general. There's a huge commitment to supplier diversity, which is great, being a woman in a minority-owned business. And I just feel like the possibilities really are endless now. I really do. I have so much hope, and this place that we live is a great country, and I just feel like just so many different doors will open that I probably never imagined now. So I'm pretty excited about the future.
And so we're live now in
Okay.
my office and probably in your home. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So thank you for sticking with us, everybody that's logged in. It looks like we had about 12 people at one time that were logged in at the same time, and the questions are starting to come in. So we just asked that any questions that came up, if you can type those into the comments on YouTube, we can then go ahead and relay those to Elizabeth and get started. So the first questions are starting to come in, and you touched on wanting to expand the business into all 50 states and even internationally. So, but what deep down into the core of the business is one of your goals that you want to do? And then how, as the president, do you set those type of goals?
Well, we started working on our celebrity business, and a couple of years ago, I said that I wanted to have some celebrity clients. And so right now we have about 5, and I want to obviously double and then triple and then quadruple that. And so that's one of the goals that I'm working on. And the reason that'll be really critical as far as like a West Coast presence, and also like the New York area, because that's where a lot of them are. So I think it would be helpful for us to just to have those other offices that are open and available. And, that will continue to just provide support, that people like to know, like, oh, she has people in my, particular state or time zone. So that's one of the things that I'm really focused on.
Great. Thank you, Chris Medeiros, for that question. The next question comes from Matt Appenzeller. What qualities have you developed since you became an entrepreneur that you were not aware of that you had prior to getting started?
Being a good listener. In college, I majored in psychology, and really understanding people and taking the time. I didn't realize, I think, at the time how important that is, because people are the most important part. And I talked about relationships in our conversation, Corey, but it's just really understanding that everyone is different, and being intentional and engaged in the conversation, right? So I think that people skills are just key. People do business with those they know, trust, and like. And again, you need to be your genuine self when you're connecting with people. But that likability factor is key. And then understanding, like, just meeting people where they are. Everyone is different. So when I approach people on my team, some people I can joke with, others, I know their sense of humor is a little bit different. So it's about really understanding that it takes a number of different people to make this world successful, right? And to make and for this world to function and for business to function. But I didn't realize at the time, I think, how important my psychology degree would be for interacting with people in so many different, in the business, outside, looking at clients, suppliers, the airlines. I mean, all those things are critical. And I focus on those relationships, but taking the time to understand the psychology of people and emotion, empathy, that has really helped me. They probably didn't even know that at the time, how important that was.
So we've probably all done the personality tests at some point in trainings or in a workplace. How important would that be for people to really hone those skills especially in a company like yours that really is very people interactive and
right. And we obviously, and I'm sure all entrepreneurs, like, you get to a point where you set up like your mission, vision, and goals, and you want to make sure that when you're looking at people, they align with those. It's a value thing. It's I always tell my team that if they can do anything they want, as long as it's not immoral or illegal, which is a really funny thing to say, but the point is, our environment is not an environment where you're micromanaged. People have that freedom to be creative and try things. But it's super important that, again, people feel that they can be creative, that they can collaborate, and they can contribute to the culture. But as we're looking at talent, they're just things that we'll know, right? And what I do is I'll do like group interviews, so it's not just me. I want other people to be involved to see if they may see something that I don't, or if a gut feeling of one of the senior members of my team is just not, because you always follow your gut, and that's a simple thing, but it helps me a lot and leads me the right way. But if someone from my team just doesn't get a good feeling, then I'm going to trust them, right? And just understand it's not the right fit. But it really is following your gut. And when you create your values and your vision and your mission, what your purpose is, all those components will help you when you're looking at talent to see if they can fit in, right? And if they can contribute and add. And everyone doesn't, and I'm going to be really clear about this, like, everyone who works for me there, everyone is different. Race, sexual preference, gender, everyone is different. I don't have like a cookie cutter person, but there are fundamental values that I'm looking for, right? And you want to make sure that those are there. I'm about honesty, integrity. I talked about ambition and being driven, but it's just that honesty and integrity are really important to me. And if that is broken, the trust is broken, then they just can't work in my organization. And I had to make some hard decisions, unfortunately, for people that just didn't understand it, and they broke my trust, and we had to part ways. But I'm very serious about that, and it was a great time for me to demonstrate to my team like how serious I am and how committed I am to the organization, to everybody, not just one person. So sorry, that's kind of a long answer.
That's fine. Those tough situations, those are what puts you in that role and where you kind of need to thrive. So we had mentioned in your talk there that how important networking is.
Hmm.
And with our student population, we have high schoolers, of course, and then they go on to college. And we really focus on the importance of networking right away in high school and in college. And Benjamin Bittner is asking the question, in the world of COVID that we live in now, the traditional networking of going to events and hanging out and interacting with people and meeting people is kind of out the door. So how would you recommend that they network in this COVID era?
This environment. I mean, I think you and I talked about this. LinkedIn is just critical. And I don't think high school is too young to create a profile and to connect with people. I mean, there's so many people that I would just have like the grit that I didn't know them from anything. And some people I had no connection at all. And I would just reach out to them and just say, hey, I'm interested in your story and learning about your journey. And and again, come from a selfless place, not with anything in particular that you want, but just to learn and to have the conversation. And people are happy to help people and help young people, especially like in these times. It's such an unprecedented time. And this is the perfect time to reach out to people because, everyone is in the Zoom environment or WebEx or Google Teams. So it's the perfect time to reach out. So additionally, if there's somebody, if you create your profile in LinkedIn, and of course, connect with people that you know, but then take that chance to connect with people that you're just, maybe you aspire to have a conversation with, you look up to them. But additionally, the one thing I want to mention that I always do as well is I look at my connections to see if they know the person that I'm trying to have a conversation with, if that makes sense. So, and then I always message the people, just, do you know this person really well? Because you need a solid connection. Because you want to have someone that can vouch for you. Like I do, I always look for the vouch and someone who knows me and can vet me and say, I know Elizabeth. But additionally, I have done those blind kind of things like, hey, I'm just, I've admired you for a long time. And both have worked. So my point is there's not just one way to do it. There are many ways to skin a cat, as people say. So I would just try multiple methods to get to that conversation, that connection.
It sounds like an entrepreneurial business in the works there, vouch.com,
Right.
to vouch for people. Aubriana Wiley has a question about, you had talked that you had to kind of come in and change the culture within the organization. Were there specific things that you had to change? And then how did the employees react to those changes? How did you keep them engaged and motivated?
Sure. I mean, before my sister and I moved back to Columbus, we didn't conduct reviews, and we weren't looking at performance really. So we put some metrics and measurements around those concepts. We had to formalize our handbook just so that when we were bringing new people on, we had just those things make a difference that are in order. Obviously, looking at insurance companies, sourcing new suppliers to work with. We have a 401k that we offer our client, but it took some time to get there. But I'll be honest with you, some of our employees that had watched me grow up, and that was really hard to then see someone who looked at me as a little teenager to then a recent college graduate running this business. They just didn't like change, and they didn't. Why are we doing this? And why can't I? I leave at a certain time every day. Why can't I do that? And, we were in this growth mode. At the time, we had a smaller team that we depended on so many people. We were mighty, but just if something happened and one person was out, or we had to create more structure. And with that, some people just didn't like it, and were frustrated. And that comment I made that you may hear is we've always done it this way. We don't want to change. And if you don't have innovation, if you don't have flexibility to really take chances and to make the culture better, there are always growing pains. And those people just didn't want me to invest in the online booking tool, just things that have transformed our business. So naturally, some people just didn't want to work there anymore because they hated the change. They didn't like the structure. And it wasn't like it was a regimen, military structure, but there were just things that were in place that made it just easier for everyone to, if you know what the guidelines are and the rules are, it's so much better. But if you just have kind of an open session, it was pure chaos. So we had to get some structure in place. And so with that, some people were able to stay, and I'm going to date myself, will like get with the program, for lack of a better term, and others just couldn't hang. And if they couldn't, then that was fine. And I was fine with that because, again, I want the people to work with me that want to be there and that believe in the vision and that believe that we can have clients in 50 states and that are committed and want to work hard and want to grow and be successful.
And so that's kind of another skill that people can kind of build, is that adaptable change.
Right.
Trying to see, if somebody new comes in and they completely change everything, are you flexible and willing to change with them, or is it this is the way we've always done it? And that's kind of how you get out the door, right?
Right.
So you were at Ohio Business Week as a judge and also as a speaker. Is there anything that really kind of stood out to you on the students and their motivation and why it's important to for a student to participate in something like Ohio Business?
I mean, the thing that was really empowering for me to see is there's so many students that at a young age are interested in entrepreneurship, which I think that, it's not for everyone, but the fact that people are interested and committed and applied to spend the time, at OU is really encouraging because, it's just because there's so much opportunity there. The development of the teams, when I judge the teams, see the products and the services they were they collaborated on. It was awesome. So for me, if you have an interest in entrepreneurship, this is a great place to go. There's so many people there that are graduates of the program, right? Who continue to go back that could be judges or could be counselors or support or speakers, but there is a huge network there, and where people are committed to just the success of the program, and then and with that they want to help the students as well who are interested in entrepreneurship. So I would say anyone who's interested in entrepreneurship or business, this is a great opportunity to see what does it look like and what is it about. And then if you are able to, you're given that opportunity, I say take advantage of the connections, not only with the students, but also with the adults that are present as well. And I would say first impressions are everything. And it's really putting yourself out there, taking yourself out of your comfort zone. Like these kind of conversations used to make me really nervous, but I still always have a little nerve, right? Because you always have to keep that. You can't get overconfident or cocky, but it just helps me get better. And so I say that because it's important if you are able to go to the Ohio Business Week session or one of the sessions, is put yourself out there. You grow, you stretch, you learn. It just makes such a difference. I'm always looking at ways to grow and to get better. And the only way you can do that is by having the courage and just trying it. And I think that's what shows you what the difference is between people who are successful and then sometimes mediocre. And what I loved about the Ohio Business Week experience on the judging side, and then obviously speaking, is that the kids there are serious about entrepreneurship. They're committed. They're coming from communities from all across the state, different stories, different perspectives, but there's that interest, that common interest is entrepreneurship and business. And it's just a great place to meet people that maybe don't look like you, but can contribute, have suggestions, just they can dump so much and pour so many things into you. And that's why I really believe in the organization and believe what you guys are doing.
Well, thank you for that endorsement and that shout out. And with that, we wanted to relay that we are planning to have a camp next summer, an in-person camp at Ohio University. Fingers crossed. But everything we're doing is gearing up towards that. It'll be held July 18th through the 24th. Again, it's a residential camp at Ohio University, and students can apply on our website, ohiobusinessweek.org. You'll find the links there, and businesses can get involved by sending volunteers and employees and stuff to kind of help out with the camp. And that's also online, or you can reach out to us directly. So Elizabeth, thank you for sharing your story and how you have built your company and your organization. And what really stands out to me is the culture that you've created in your business. I know just interacting with the few people that I did when we recorded the session, they were very excited to work there and very friendly and approachable, and I appreciate that, and for being involved in the Ohio business community. And then lastly, for everything that you have done for Ohio Business Week.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And let me know what else I can do to help.
I will do that. And so stay tuned. And in a few weeks, we'll have another speaker here on our speaker series for Ohio Business Week. And until then, everybody stay safe and happy holidays. Take care.
Good night.